What's going on, guys? Today we are actually going to start test fitting the turbo. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is clock the turbo. What we have to do is this part has to be flipped upside down, and then this part has to be rotated down that way. To get this to flip, I'm actually just going to loosen this side and spin this side around. And to do that, we have these bolts right here on the inside. We just need to loosen all of those, and then we'll be able to rotate the turbo. So now that we have all these loose, you can see that this moves freely. We're just going to pick it up, rotate this 180 like that, and then go ahead and tighten it down. In order to get the flange on there, though, I'm going to have to bolt the flange on first, then tighten this up. Okay, so here's the turbo. The exhaust side is clocked with the oil feed now. You actually can't put it right at 12 o'clock with this turbo, or with this restrictor on there, because you can see it's kind of touching right there. But you can get it really close, and then what you have to do is just loosen up these bolts right here on the top on the intake side, and then you can turn the intake side as well to clock that. And this needs to be facing down. Alright, so now the turbo is clocked exactly how we need it. We have the exhaust on the top right there with the oil feed on the top, drain on the bottom, and the intake port right here on the bottom. So now we need to come over to the car. We need to mount it to the car. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull off the manifold, the exhaust manifold. We have to undo a couple bolts down here and disconnect the wideband because it's plugged in right down there, and undo the bolts on top, and then we're going to go ahead and pull the bumper off. So before I take the exhaust manifold off, I've actually been kind of assembling more of this stuff. As you can see, I threaded these studs in here, and I'm about to put the studs in this as well. And one thing I noticed about this kit is it comes with a lot of extra gaskets. So right here we have the manifold gasket as well as the studs and the hardware for this. There's also a manifold gasket for this that came with the turbo, and then there's also a few more, like there's another oil feed gasket right here, and then I have a couple of these gaskets because one came with the turbo and one came with the drain hose setup. So it's kind of cool that they give you extra stuff, but there's also stuff that they don't give you. Like they give you a aluminum bung for the oil pan, so you have to go buy a steel one if you have a steel oil pan like me. And then also, in order for this oil feed to work, you either have to tilt it way far forward to the point where it's not effective, or you have to buy a 40 or a 90 degree 4AN fitting right here for this. So I had to buy one of those online. So that will be coming soon. I took the bottom bolts off down there. Now all I have to do is take these off and disconnect the wideband, and we're good to pull this off. Alright, now we're going ahead and putting the studs in here. If you're ever having trouble getting them to thread in by hand, what you can do is twist two nuts together. It gives you something to grip so you can spin them in. And then if they're still getting stuck like this one kind of is, you can also just even take a wrench and put it right on there, and then you can thread them right in just like that. Just a little trick. So some absolutely awesome things that I figured out are the only nut that actually goes on is this one. The rest of them don't fit. This one sits up a little high, so I'm gonna have to grind some of this down. This one doesn't fit on at all, so I have to grind like all of this down around it. And then back here, this one doesn't fit on at all because this is too close, so I just have to clock this a little bit differently. So I can get these two to fit right out of the box. I have to grind the turbo down to get these two nuts to fit on this side, which is kind of really stupid, but this will do the job for now so that we can test fit it and see how everything works. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so unfortunately the compressor side of the turbo does not fit in here. with the AC fan right here. So we're gonna have to probably get a slim fan if we can keep AC at all. But I'm gonna go ahead and take this fan out for now and then see if we can go ahead and get it to fit in here. All right, now I'm mad because I got 2 bolts holding it on. The turbo hits the block. This kit doesn't fit at all, not even close. We actually did get it to fit by clocking this right here, but now we can't put anything on here. So it's such a tight fit, we're actually gonna grind this part of the block down, those ridges right there, to get this back to where it was. I did find videos of people doing this, or not videos, but people do this on the Honda forum, so it must be okay. So that's how much we grind it away. No, it's all in now. Barely fits all in there now. But it does fit. As you can see, the downpipe does clear the AC. It's all going to have to be, I can't really get this stuff on right now. It doesn't even look like the downpipe has to be extended or anything. It looks like it's just going to work the way it is, which is awesome. It just all has to be bolted together before I put it in the car, this entire assembly, and has to be brought up from the bottom, which is a little unfortunate. It's going to be kind of a pain in the butt if I ever have to take this out and put it in, but I should be able to make it work. And then, as you can see, there is a ton of room right here where the fan goes. The only thing that's a little iffy is this right here, so it might not, the regular fan might not fit in. I mean, it probably won't, but there is a slight chance that it will. If it doesn't, then we'll just get a slim fan and we'll be good to go, but I'm definitely going to be able to keep my AC, which is awesome. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. You are going to be mad at me because yesterday I worked on the car and I didn't feel like recording, so I did kind of a decent amount. I have the intercooler mounted now. So I had my dad help me. It was a huge pain in the butt to get the downpipe on there, but the downpipe is actually bolted in with a couple of bolts. You can kind of see. And it clears the AC. Everything's hooked up, and then I have the intercooler mounted. What I ended up doing is there were a couple threaded holes down here, and they were a little messed up, so I had to tap them. But I used those, and then I had to drill out these brackets that they give you with the intercooler, because these slots are not wide enough to fit the bolts. So I had to kind of grind those out. And as you can see, this is pretty much maxed out. It looks like maybe it could come out a little bit further, which I'm gonna have to try to do. Not really on that side though. And it kind of isn't very sturdy. It's sturdy now that I have these side pipes on, but it wasn't before. So I think I might have to do something on the top a little bit. Also, everything doesn't fit perfectly. It seems like this needs to come out a little bit more for all the pipes to line up. I mean, I think it would seal still. You can see, maybe if I can get it right, there's a little bit of an angle on this pipe right here. And then right here it doesn't seem to connect perfect, and definitely not up there. So, I mean, it would be an airtight seal, but I wish it was more of like a perfect connection. So I might have to figure out mounting this intercooler a little bit differently. You can see right here, I had to cut out some of this to fit this guy. And then on this side, I had to take out the windshield washer bottle that was sitting right here. Unfortunately, you can't have that if you're going to have this. So I'm going to have to figure out something with that. Probably like a smaller bottle that I'll mount up here or something. And if you come under here, you can see the pipe goes up to the turbo right there. This has a little bit of an angle on it too, because I couldn't get the turbo clocked perfectly. If I want the turbo clocked perfectly so that this doesn't have an angle right here, then I have to grind down the side of the turbo, the little block on it, which I'm thinking about doing. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I mean, it should work this way regardless. The thing that kind of sucks is I'm looking at the oil drain, and it's going to have to come around the downpipe and come through here and go in right there, which is, I mean, it is a straight down shot still. Everything will be downhill. I just don't like how far over it has to go, but unfortunately that's going to have to be how it is. Otherwise, it's going to have to come right down here, and I'm going to have to remove this bracket and put it into the oil pan right there. And I'm afraid the hose is going to kink. I was messing with that. I might need some different fittings if I do it that way. But I think I'm going to do it over here around the downpipe. I did see one other person do it that way. My issue now is if you look at this, see these pipes come through right here, and the bumper kind of curves in right here. And if you come back over here and we look at this bumper that I threw outside, oh, I just ran into a nasty spider web. Where it curves in, the fog lights stick out too far, I think. So we're probably not going to be able to use the fog lights. I'm going to keep them in there. I mean, I might take them out for now, but I'm probably going to end up cutting off the back of them so they won't function anymore, but I can still have them in there. But today and tomorrow, I'm just going to be messing with this. All right, I got to go over this quickly because I got to get to the store before they close. But I was able to drop this whole entire thing down in one piece, manifold, turbo, and downpipe, just by loosening the slave cylinder. That's the only thing that was in the way, obviously besides the AC fan. But other than that, that can come up and down freely now. So now what I need to do is see if I can extend that downpipe. Alright guys, I apologize for not showing that much stuff. I'm just really trying to get this done before I meet this weekend. So, stupid light, come on. I need to replace this light. But right now we're running the oil feed and we've come across an issue. So if you look up here, we got the T coming out of the block right there. Let me get a better angle. You got the T coming out of the block, and right where the oil pressure sensor is supposed to go, there's that black plastic engine harness loom, and it will not move. The bolts for it to unbolt it are like underneath the intake manifold, and I can't get to them. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to route that T. It's still going to be up there, but it's going to be kind of zip tied off to the side or mounted somehow. I ended up buying like another oil feed kit. So what I got here is we have two -4 AN to 1/8 inch NTP fittings right here, so that'll screw into the block. And then I just got this short -4 AN line right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to thread one of these into the block, run that line basically around the oil filter and back up there. And then we're going to thread this into the other end of the line. It's just the same exact fitting, it's just different color. And then we're going to thread the T into the other end of the line there. I was just going to move the T further out of the way, but we have the plug for the oil pressure sensor and we can't really move that plug. So this is what we're going to do to make it all work. So I'm going to go ahead and get going on that. See if these work, these stainless steel ones. What's up guys? I'm taking a break from the car today, but I just wanted to give you an update. We did a decent amount of work on this thing yesterday, like spent almost the whole day. I got off work at 3 and we were out here till 2 in the morning working on it. I kind of want to apologize for not recording all of it, but at the same time I'm really rushing to get this thing done by this weekend. And when you're working and recording a video, it takes about twice as long to actually do that project. So I'm just kind of, trying to chug away and get things done. And I have my dad helping me too, and I didn't want to keep interrupting him with the camera. So I'll show you kind of what we've done. And unfortunately, I can't really show you how to do this whole thing. I can just show you the progress that we're making the way that I'm doing this. This is also the first turbo car I've ever done. And, I'm making mistakes along the way. And I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes that I'm making. I'm catching things, but if you don't watch a video all the way through and you don't see me catching those things, then you could do those things yourself and mess up your own car. So I just want to kind of show you what we've done to make everything work. If you come underneath the car, the first thing that you can see is we have the downpipe hooked up and it's bolted up. Actually, the first thing you see is this, which I'll explain. But the downpipe is now bolted up. What we had to do was cut the flange off of this mid pipe and then weld a new flat flange on there. There's no more donut gasket in here. This was all done with a Harbor Freight welder, but it did work. And now this is able to bolt up because you have the flex pipe here. You don't need a donut gasket. This is the oil feed. It's still not hooked up all the way, but it's in the block. You can see I just put a straight fitting in there instead of putting the T in the block. And then you relocate your oil pressure sensor because it doesn't really fit up there. And I have heard of people cracking their block, I guess. I don't really understand how, but that's what we did. Unfortunately, I don't really feel like moving that plug for the pressure sensor. So we're just gonna kind of route this around the oil filter and put it back up there and plug it in. And then there will be enough room for the feed to come through. The feed is actually coming through from over there somewhere. You can kind of see it up there. I need to reroute it a little bit different on top. The next thing that you can see is my oil pan was leaking. So I put a brand new oil pan in here. This is not leak. I actually just painted this and it tripped a whole bunch and didn't cover the way I wanted it to, but that's whatever. This is a brand new oil pan because I didn't want it to leak. So put a new oil pan on there. Here is the AN bung for the drain. And you can see we did also have to extend the downpipe an inch right here to make it fit. It does clear AC. This whole thing has been kind of a pain because it's really hard to get to everything. Some of these downpipe bolts, you know, didn't fit. We couldn't use the nuts that came with the downpipe. We had to find different ones, and we kind of just mix matched whatever ended up working. These were some of the original header nuts right there, these two, and then we had some other small ones. And on one side, we couldn't even get it to thread down all the way, so we had to stack washers and then bolt down onto the washers. But this is firm. I mean, that's kind of sketchy, but I mean, that's what you got to do if you're clearing your AC and you want to keep it. If you look over here, we have this fitting now for the oil drain. The oil drain is going to be zip tied off to something to kind of hold it a little bit away from the downpipe, but it is going to go around the downpipe to here. It's going to be downhill the whole time. Unfortunately, to put it over here, you'd have to take off this bracket, and maybe that would be better, but with the fittings that I have, the hose was going to be kinked. I did check that out, and that's just not going to work, so we do have to run it around, unfortunately. Obviously, you can tell it's also not straight up and down. The feed is not right on the bottom, but it's as good as we can get, and I'll show you how we ended up doing that. You can see we also had to grind away from the block, but I already showed you that. That's all fitting perfectly. I did have to unbolt the slave cylinder so I could pull up all of this stuff from the bottom. You had to assemble everything before you hook it up in there because there's not enough room to assemble it in place. The last thing, or the last couple things I want to show you guys, put all new nuts on here just to make it look a little better. I still don't have the wastegate on, but that's another thing that I worked on is I switched the springs around. So my wastegate's only going to be 6 pounds for now. I'll increase it later. And I'm not going to run the manual boost controller. I'm just going to run the wastegate with the built-in spring, and then I'll swap those out later. The oil feed. The way the oil feed is that they give you, you have two options. You can either run it like way on an angle down here, coming out on an angle, and that will make it so your feed's not very straight up and down. Your drain's not going to be right at the bottom. It's actually going to be at almost a 45, which is not good at all. So what I did is I put a 90 down here. I ordered it's a -4 AN fitting, female on one side and male on the other side, and it's a 90, and that puts the feed out here. And now that's going to run around down to the back, and that's where that's going to hook up. So that's where we're at right now. So really the only thing that I have left to do is I have to hook up the PCV that came out, and I need to remember to put that back in. But I need to run both oil lines, add oil, and put the oil filter on, obviously. And then just run the intercooler piping. And I already set up my base map, so I can just pop that in the ECU. We're good to start the car and start tuning. Oh, the other two things are to mount the wastegate and the blow-off valve and run those vacuum lines, but that won't be long at all. So at this point, I'm probably done for the next 2 days or so. And I'll come back out here on Friday, get my car done for the show that's on Sunday. I'm hoping to get it done and running Friday. That way, if I have any problems, then I can tackle those issues on Saturday. Quick next day update. I do have the oil drain done here. You can see, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. It is running downhill the whole way. It doesn't go uphill at all, so that should be all right, even though, you know, it's not straight down. It is what it is. I'm going to probably heat wrap this. I don't want this to end up melting at all, the rubber hose on the inside or anything like that. This is a really crappy hose. You can see it's like wanting to kink right there. but it's not. It's open all the way, and I'm gonna zip tie it this way, like put a zip tie on here and pull it, which will kind of keep this from kinking. And then I got the feed done too. I did the best I could with what I have. It looks kind of like a mess back here, but what we have is the feed coming out of there, and it loops around and back up to that brass T up there. And then the this side over here is plugged off, and then that side has the pressure sensor, which is plugged in. Obviously that black plastic was all in the way, so I couldn't come straight out of the block with that. And then I have the feed going up that way around the engine to the front. Well, here's the official first start, turbocharged. Started right up. No leaks or anything that I can see. Alright you guys, I have been boosted for a few weeks now, and I'm extremely happy with the car. There's nothing wrong with it. I got the tune all dialed in. I'll show you guys some more of that kind of stuff later. I know you probably want to see it. But just want to do a kind of review to close out this video. So I did have a couple of issues. One of them is the AC doesn't work. I got to figure that out. You can see I still don't have a fan in there, but that's not why it's not working. It's just like not working under speed or anything. So got to figure that out. I did have a couple issues with the wastegate. So first thing I did was put it to like 6 pounds, where I used the 4-pound reducer spring. Supposedly 4 pounds. I don't know. I heard different things from different sites. Nobody seems to actually know. So I used a 4-pound reducer spring, and then the 2-pound spring on top of that, which is supposed to be 6 pounds. And it was boosting over 6 pounds. So then I pulled it all out and I put it back to the 8-pound spring, and it didn't make any boost at all. So I put the 4-pound reducer spring back in, and it makes 6 pounds now. It boosts up to like 7 once you're under boost for a second. So I want to put in a boost controller. I was debating whether to get an actual good one or use the really crappy one that came with it. And to be honest, I think I might use the really crappy one just to test it out and then get a better one afterwards. But I'll do a video for that separate. Right now I'm doing the 6-pound thing. One thing I did is I put in, again after this I wanted to run 8 pounds. So I put in the 2-pound spring, and it ran like 9 pounds, which is too much. So I took that out and I put in the 1-pound spring, and it still went up to 9 pounds. So I just took out that spring too. It rips at 9 pounds, I'll tell you that, but I don't want to throw a rod right now. So put it back down to 6 temporarily. One thing that I do want to show is I replaced the oil drain line. That line is garbage. I had somebody tell me that theirs ripped that came with their kit, so right away I just went to my local hot rod shop and I bought -10 AN line. This is the line that comes with the kit. It's like really bendy, and it's just like braided line with a rubber hose inside. That's all it is. This is supposedly -10 AN line. This is real -10 AN line. You can see the thickness difference and how it's made, and I can't even really bend it. This is -10 AN line. So the fittings were really good that came with the kit. I just took out that line and I replaced it with like the real -10 AN line. So this piece of line cost me 10 bucks. Not a big deal. Just if you do this, make sure to use real -10 AN line. The oil feed is good though. It's really high quality, so don't worry about that. The other issues that I've had is it's still kind of like this. I got to do something about it. But wherever there was an NPT fitting, and not the AN stuff, that's all good. But like the MPT ends all seem to seep a little bit of oil. They're not actually like dripping or anything like that, but everything seems a little bit wet. So I'm probably going to pull that apart at some point and put some thread sealer in there or RTV and then put it back together, and it should be good. So I would do that from the start if I was you. But now we'll just go ahead and take it for a spin. Alright guys, check this out. Shift down in a second. Do a little pull. So cool. I love it. Alright guys, so that is the turbo build. Honestly, I love it. It's completely changed the car. It's about probably twice as fast, maybe a little faster than the FRS. I'm not entirely sure. We're gonna find out soon though. But yeah, make sure that if you like the series that you subscribe, like the video, and thank you for watching. Peace out.